So why the asshole always wins? There's actually a very simple answer. And the answer comes down to value. Because the asshole always has a higher perceived value than the person who's overly nice, coming towards and making someone feel extremely secure. Now, what I will say is that there is always a balance. There's always a spectrum. You can fall off of the cliff of being an asshole too much, just like I'm like trying to flex my motherfucking arm right now. You come across like a bit of a douche, right? Or you can fall off the cliff, which happens to most people, of being a nice guy, right? Um, and why? Because being a nice guy largely is compensating behavior for a lack of self-esteem or a lack of self-value, which is essentially the same thing. Because if you view someone else as higher up in the food chain, higher up in the social economic climate than you're going to be nice to them because you're trying to supplicate to them, right? Because subconsciously you believe, right? Subconsciously, once again, you believe that that increases your chances of survival because that is all that your brain is optimizing for every minute of every single day. Because you got to understand that we don't have a brain that is a modern brain. We have a brain that is a caveman brain. And that is still in that motherfucking dome of yours, operating every single move and every single thought. Why? Because it's a survival mechanism, right? And that mechanism has been in our brains for much longer than this new kind of modern time has evolved for, right? And that means that you are essentially living in a modern time and operating with with mechanics, right, of a caveman still, right? As far as the biological imperatives go. Obviously, we've gotten a lot of smarter, right? I hope you're not walking around like a motherfucking Neanderthaler, right? I certainly am not by the looks of it. So, anyways, the thing is that the biological imperatives are still the same, and that just means your fight or flight system, your reptile brain, still controls those biological impulses, right? Like you just want to fuck, you want to survive, you want to eat, etc. And so you got to understand that people just move towards things that display a certain amount of value towards them. Okay, and this is not just like a social interaction or whatever. This is also in sales, right? People always talk in sales, for example, about like these little lines and these little tricks, this and that. But very few people that I see speak about sales actually also mention the underlying dynamic of social validation within a sales conversation. Meaning, if you are in a sales conversation and you're the person selling a service or a coaching offer or whatever, and the other person is buying, if you're able to construct a conversation where they subconsciously attribute more value towards you than them. So essentially they just put you on a pedestal, right? To say, put it simply, you will be in that conversation with a lot more authority, right? And they're gonna actually take more action because of that. I'm just gonna give you a very plain and simple example. Let's say that you're a very pretty girl, okay, and that you have some single guy, or to be fair, it doesn't even have to be single for this. If we're gonna be honest with each other, fellas, let's say they have some dude on the call, right? And you're talking about the investment for this program, and it's a bit of a higher level thing, right? So the investment naturally is a bit higher. Now, let's say that he actually, cannot invest this necessarily easily, but he doesn't necessarily want to say that because, he doesn't want to look like that in your eyes, right? Um, that is very, normal to happen. Like a guy will just spend the money that he doesn't have or whatever just because he wants to save face, right, in front of the pretty woman. Now, not everybody will do that, but a lot. Like I once was on the phone with a friend, FaceTime, right? And then he was in this clothing store, and I just there was this pretty shopping assistant. This is many years ago, but there was this pretty shopping assistant. So I should like told him like, hey, go up to her, and then I was just like kind of making jokes and this and that, but like she didn't understand the fucking thing. And then he was in this store, and it was in Spain, Barcelona, and I was just somewhere else on the phone. And then this then this woman didn't understand him, and then it became from a funny thing, it became into a real awkward moment, right? And then this other big ass guy, shopping assistant or whatever, came there, and then my friend, who's quite frankly, he's a bit of a pussy, but I've known the guy for a long time. He's great, but he's a bit of a pussy in that regard. And he just ends up buying a bunch of clothes because he couldn't deal with the awkwardness of like saying that they were just making a joke or whatever, and they're not actually looking for clothes. So he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for this or that," and then he ended up buying it, right? Just like if you go to the store and you want to buy something, and then you get to the counter and then you find out the price. Let's say it's too much for you, right? Like a lot of people, they'll just buy it because they don't want to deal with that, subtraction of validation. If they then have to go, and that awkwardness, right? If they then have to go from, oh, it's actually too expensive for me, I don't want to buy it anymore, right? Once they get to the register. Most people are not confident enough to do that, okay? So those types of things, now I'm not saying you need to use this to manipulate the fuck out of people who shouldn't be buying, but I am saying that you need to be aware of the underlying dynamic within any and every relational context, and use it to your advantage rather than use it to your disadvantage, which for most people is going to be the default. Okay? Because as per default, most people just go with what naturally happens. And what naturally happens, if you've ever looked at your life, is rarely good. Okay? Because naturally, once again, we just, if you don't fucking control your life, and by the way, I'm not painting my motherfucking nails. I got this shit between the door. That shit hurt like a motherfucker. Anyways, if you look at, naturally, right? Naturally, what would happen if you wouldn't, display any self-control, or if you wouldn't display any form of discipline or whatever? You'd probably be on this motherfucking couch, and instead of making videos, you'd be watching them. And you'd probably have a little bit of Cheetos in there. You probably wouldn't even have showered today, this and that, right? Look, I'm taking it to the extreme, right? And it depends on the person, but you get my point. If you don't actually program your future, the default future ain't gonna be pretty, okay? So usually you don't want to go with the natural thing that's gonna happen if you don't do anything about it, okay? Now, on that note of programming your future, right? And kind of, we steered away from the topic a little bit, but why the asshole always wins? It came back to the concept of he has more value, right? He has essentially the power to make someone light up or take their lights out, right? Why? Why does he have that power? It's because when he says something that is nice, it hits home about 100 times harder than when some random, normal, nice person says it. And the reason for that is obviously because it's special. It has weight, okay? You gotta, in human interaction, make yourself and anything you say or do have a certain weight, okay? When you say that, oh shit, that's a big deal, right? You know the saying when people say like, oh, that means a lot coming from you. That's what you want to cultivate, right? People need to be thinking that about you. And the example I always give you guys is like, if you ever just think back of like a sport you played, or a time in high school, whatever, or you just had, or elementary, whatever the fuck, and you had a very strict teacher or strict coach who was always bossing everybody around, who was essentially always kind of like low-key grumpy and pissed. But then sometimes if you did something really well, he would just be like, I'm proud of you, something like that. And it would mean the fucking world to you. I certainly remember having this in my life, and those things would mean so much more to me, and I would be so much more motivated around those people than around just the more bland, blended in type teacher or coach or whatever, right? So that concept and that story really shows you how powerful this can be. So this video is not about like, okay, you need to start being an asshole necessarily. It's just about, okay, how can you be that person? What the fuck is happening up here? How can you be that person that seriously has that weight to him, right? And you got to understand that you don't actually need to be an absolute asshole to do this, okay? Because that's potentially what some of you might think as you're watching this video. Oh, now I got to be a complete dick to people. Because that is not the point of the video. The point of the video is that usually people that are kind of assholes, they embody certain traits that are extremely attractive. Now, when I say the word attractive, I say this in every video. I don't necessarily just mean guy to woman, right? You can also be guy to guy. No, I'm done. We're not going there on this channel. I mean, attraction is in general just a word that can also be used. There's also attraction marketing in business, right? So being attractive is a concept that applies to every aspect of your life with different relational contexts, okay? But anyhow, it's the qualities that are beneath the surface that are very attractive. Because I'll tell you this, if you are nice from a place of confidence, that is wildly different than being nice from a place of compensation, okay? From a place of, oh, you're above me. That is night and day. I often say, right, if we're talking about a relational context, when girls ask me like, hey, what's your type? I often say someone who's able to be extremely nice from a place of confidence. Because genuinely, that's my type in a girl, right? The girl who's like, who does everything for me, who's like, gives me a 10 out of 10, right? And Luke's a 10 out of 10, fellas. Don't forget about that. But gives me 10 out of 10, right? Gives me 100%. But it's for her coming from a place of confidence, right? So she genuinely does it because she values me so much and she, looks at me as that guy. But it's not because she feels that she has to, or otherwise she's gonna lose me or whatever, right? Now, that could still be the same ultimate kind of action, right? Someone could take the same actions, but the intent or the place that it comes from could be wildly different. And that is what I'm talking about here. So the actions of like, okay, and in this example, right? Like waking them up with breakfast and something else. Just taking care, like bringing like, anyways, just a whole bunch of shit that you would want as a guy, right? You could have those exact same actions, but it could be very attractive when one person does it, and it could be very unattractive or off-putting when someone else does it. And the reason for that is the place that it comes from, right? So with this example that I'm saying, if the girl does it genuinely from a place of confidence, and then if I wouldn't value her at all, if I just be, basically taking that for granted, taking that kindness for weakness, then she would also be out the door, right? Now, a lot of guys might say like, okay, now with this whole red pill kind of shit, right? They all want, it seems to me as if guys just want a chick who's extremely insecure, right? That they just want that as their girl because that they are very easy to manipulate, and then it's very easy to just get whatever you want from her. Whereas for me personally, I'm not attracted to that, okay? Because for me, I'm not gonna value her at that point at all, okay? Because if she's just mad insecure and she does whatever I say, but it's from a place of insecurity, that's not necessarily interesting to me. That's not necessarily cool to me. Whereas if it's a girl that, is extremely self-centered or centered within herself is what I mean to say, and confident and just a cool person, but she just values me a lot and from a place of confidence, she wants to give me everything, right? That's how I personally would treat my girl or whatever as well, right? From that place being very nice. Now, when you have that, when those two people kind of merge, that can be extremely good, right? But it's extremely rare at the same time. But for me, to be honest, that's like the ideal situation, right? So this video is not to say that, being an asshole and this and that and this and that, right, is necessarily where you want to end up in, your long-term relationship or whatever. But it is all these concepts to understand and this and that. So I personally think that you need to find someone that you're on the same page with in that sense of the word, etc. But at the same time, you do still have that concept, whatever, even if you're like that, what I just explained, you do still have that concept that will always be there of, you need to have your own thing. You need to be focused on yourself. But that's just also normal, being a normal fucking person, right? It's not just like, playing a game and being an asshole. It's also just like, okay, you're doing all this stuff. You're on your purpose. You're on your path as a man, etc. And then a lot of those things will just go automatically, right? And with that, if you have a very high price tag of yourself, right? If you value yourself a lot of those things also will go automatically, right? You're not going to put up with any shit. You're not going to put up with any disrespect or whatever. Personally, I I remember one of my relationships, I would always say, I'm just a person where if there's the slightest disrespect that's thrown my way, I just can't take it, right? But if you are dating someone from a very different culture, or even if you have friends, when you're from a very different culture, like this guy once said to me when we were all in a scenario, this guy once said to me, "Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna need you to do X." I'm like, "What the fuck you just say to me?" You know, and I was like pissed. Because to me, that's a very disrespectful of saying, I need you to, what the fuck you mean you fucking need me to do something? Okay, I didn't fucking work for you. Better back your ass up, man. But anyways, that's just a funny side tangent. So yeah, fellas, that's kind of like the ideal place that you want to get to. But all of this really comes down to really just becoming a high value person yourself, right? And I can tell you that will basically fix almost everything in and of itself, right? By itself. Because if you truly view yourself as a high value person, you're going to create yourself as that externally as well, right? So the internal always creates the external, but it can also be that you can create that external as a compensation of the lack of internal confidence, right? But then it's usually very shaky, okay? And so what I mean by that, for example, right? Like let's say that you really, really want the pretty girl because then you're going to feel good about yourself, or you really want to make this money or whatever, right? Then you're usually going to be attached to it. And attachment to anything always leads to your downfall. Because if you're attached to something, the price of being attached is your inability to ever maintain it, okay? Because nobody wants to be around people that are attached. That's what I just said, right? Or I mean, there's like the 5% of people, or the 2%, whatever it is, of people who are just absolute narcissists, and they just want a person who just, literally is completely below them, right? These are the types of people, and I have some people in mind right now that are kind of like online and stuff. These are the type of people that will only hang out with like dudes that are way below them in status, in competencies, in success, in confidence, even whatever, right? They'll only hang out with like those types of people because that makes them feel like a winner, right? They're the biggest guy in the room. Additionally, they'll only like kind of like date the women that are way below them in status, in whatever, right? That kind of stuff. Maybe because they're not able to date higher, right? If we're talking about it that way. But largely also because it depends on the person, right? It depends on the exact scenario. But either way, also because those people, right, are kind of like, once again, very easy to control. If you have such a big value gap, right? And when I say value, guys, I just don't want to give like 10 cliff notes with every fucking word, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Value in terms of like perceived value, like what is the relative value between you and the other person? Like how much does the other person, and do you see you above them, etc.? And that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, you're that X amount more famous or whatever. Those things could be a part of it, but you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, doing that, dating like that is, it can work. It works. It's great. Like you can have shit on your terms, but it's kind of like you can have shit on your terms very easily, right? It's like, dudes dating a chick who's like, just a 4. And when I say a 4, I'm just don't mean just in looks, but also just in other things. And then they're like, oh, she treats me that. I'm like, bro, come on. Like that's like obviously because you're like a superstar externally, and then you're just gonna sit here, right? That's not necessary. If you genuinely just like that person a lot, then that's different, right? But don't pretend to say that is something that, now you've achieved that dynamic and that's special somehow. It doesn't make sense like that. Okay. So anyways, kind of getting back to the point here, that in my opinion should be kind of a good end result to aim for, right? To actually be able to be on the same, or even have people that are higher externally, but then still have that maintain that good dynamic in that relationship. So fellas, if you want to do this, then the most important thing is always going to be, as a man, you just need to be on your purpose, right? So let's dive into that a little bit, because I can tell you times that I fucked up in my life, was usually attributed to me not being clear on my vision and on my purpose, right? What I'm here to do, what I need to be, what man I need to be, right? To be able to fulfill what I was put here to do, right? And that might be, you know, hey, what business do you want to do, etc. That might be what avenue do you want to go down? Do you want to be a pro athlete? Do you want to be a business person? Whatever. And so it is vital, it's highly important for you to display the qualities of someone who is high value. Fuck that, okay? Forget about what I just said. For you to be that person who's high value and therefore automatically display the qualities of someone who's high value, you need to actually kind of forget about that whole shit. So I know that it's kind of a, you know, strange phenomena because I make these videos. And honestly, I've made a lot of videos on this channel, and as I already said before, this channel, I just kind of riff. I do this on my fucking iPhone. There's no mic, there's no nothing. This is on a tripod from probably $10, just in my room, right? I just put that shit down because I like to talk to you like this, like we're on fucking FaceTime or something, right? You know, within these videos, I posted a lot of different stuff, and you guys just really like the videos, apparently, where I talk and speak about the social dynamic aspect, right? How to, you know, influence people, how to, you know, date pretty girls, how to get a lot of friends, how to be the popular guy, how to be the cool guy, this and that, right? That kind of shit. That's the shit on my channel that gets a lot of views. I guess I just have unique perspectives on the matter, and it's valuable for you guys. So I'm gonna keep making them, right? Because you gotta give the people what they want, right? But that said, that's maybe the title of the video, and that may be the first part of content of the video. But every video, if you've noticed, I kind of lead it into a deeper layer here, where we gotta look beneath the surface of what actually initially creates the things that we talk about in that first section. Okay, right? Looks like the asshole always gets the girl. Looks like the asshole always kind of gets the job or gets the whatever, right? He's valued. He's the one being asked out. He's the one being pursued by friends, this and that, right? He's the one who gets invited to the party. Why? Because he displays high value. It's not necessarily because he's an asshole. It's just that asshole trait, asshole characteristics usually are subconsciously connected to value, right? And therefore makes people seem valuable. So just a quick side tangent. If you've ever, I used to talk to a girlfriend of mine, and you know, I'm talking about like when I was like probably 16, 17 or whatever. And then we talked about this concept of like this girlfriend of mine, she was a very outgoing person, very extroverted, right? But she didn't value herself that much, right? So she was like just a normal pretty girl, but just not someone who would be, she didn't see herself or view herself as like the cool girl or like the popular kid in high school, right? Anything like that. But then we had this conversation where she said like, yeah, then we'll be out just with guys and girls, and then there'll be like this girl who I know is just very shy and introverted, right? That's what she said about one of her, I guess acquaintances or whatever. But then these guys, they all find her very interesting, even though actually, like, she's not cool. It's not like she's like, you know, being, she's not high value necessarily. She's actually just insecure, right? That's what it actually is. But it looks like she's just very cool and aloof because she's insecure, right? I'll give you another example. I used to do some sales stuff, right? Back in the day. And sometimes, scratch that, all the time, I'd be fucking hungover. And what you found is sometimes when you were hungover, you'd actually be better at sales than if you were, and I just did door-to-door kind of shit, right? When knocking on doors and stuff. Sometimes you'd be better at sales if you were hungover. Why? Because you had this I don't give a fuck attitude. Why? Because like you were just too tired to even show too much intent, right? To even, like, a quick example. Yesterday I was genuinely fucked from a boxing training, right? I was just fucking super tired. And so I'm walking out of the gym and like, you know, some person said bye to me. I couldn't even fucking bring it up to say bye back, right? Something like that can make you seem more high value because once again, as we've talked about, it's kind of like the asshole characteristics, right? That's usually just connected to it. I don't make the fucking rules, fellas, right? I don't. I wish I did, okay? I'm not Jesus. I'm not gonna say I look like him or anything like that. I'm not even gonna get into it. As we know, people always say that I look like Brad Pitt. Some people disagree. I think the resemblance is uncanny, but that's besides the point.
Say what you said. You do look like Brad Pitt. I look like Brad Pitt. You hear that?
So, anyways, as we were talking about, sometimes just because you're actually tired as fuck, or you're hungover or whatever, you display high value traits just because you can't even, like, usually you wouldn't be able, it goes against your nature to just ignore someone or to just barely respond to someone. It goes against your nature because you have been most likely, right, if you're not a complete dick, you've most likely been raised as a person who's like, okay, it's very, very unpolite to just ignore someone, right? That's usually something that most people, that's normal, right? To not do that. And so it goes again, there's usually a lot of resistance for people to behave like that. And so if you are then hungover or very tired or something like that, sometimes you can be more charismatic because you want to just be nice, but like you can't even bring it up. You know what I mean? And therefore you're more aloof and you allow people to have this, you allow more space to be there, and therefore people come to you more. Usually it's the more space you give, the more people come to you, right? It's just like if you're, just a practical example, right? If you're sitting next to someone and it's loud in a venue like a club or a restaurant, and you're the one who's like, you know, let's say I'm trying to hear you, I'm fucking coming in like this, right? To hear you, because you're speaking soft as fuck, and I gotta move my shit all the way over here to fucking hear what the fuck you're saying. Now, you're not gonna also do this because then we'd be bashing heads or doing something else, depending on who you are. But that being said, if I'm here, right, this is my natural position. Let's say that you're where the camera is right now, we're just speaking. And let's say I can't hear you. I'm just gonna be like, can you just speak up a bit? I can't actually hear you. That's how I do it, okay? And personally, it fucking pisses me the fuck off when someone just doesn't have the social awareness to speak the fuck up in a loud venue. It annoys the living shit out of me. So I'll also just be like, yo, speak up. It depends if who I'm talking to, right? Can't fucking hear you. Can't hear what you're saying. Because I'm not gonna be like this and making myself uncomfortable, getting my motherfucking back hurt, okay, just to hear you speak because you can't get that motherfucking shit out of your mouth, okay? We all know what I was gonna say there. Anyways, so that is just a micro example, practical example of like physically how you can come too much to someone. And obviously that was the point, right? The point that I'm trying to illustrate is like, if I'm coming to you physically like this, how the fuck can you come back to me unless you wanna, you know what I'm saying? But if I'm leaning back, then yeah, it's gonna be chill, right? You can just come forward a bit if you want to. Or even if let's say that I'm sitting like all the way like this would be, guys, it's so funny because these micro examples show you exactly what I mean when I speak about the macro perspective. So on the macro perspective, I was talking about you have the sweet point, or not sweet spot. I always fuck that up. Then you have the left side of the equation. Then you have the right side of the equation. Right side being, you know, complete dick, alpha, whatever you want to call it, right? Left side being complete beta male bitch and just coming too much toward people that don't even respect you. So this, we can also say that if I'm here, I'm just sitting like this. Now I'm in a sweet spot. I almost fucked it up again. Now I'm all the way on the right side of the spectrum, right? Because I'm just literally leaning back, and I'm making it harder for you to reach me with your words. Let's say we're in a loud venue, and now I'm like all the way to the left, right? Because I'm coming toward you. So as we can see, if I'm all the way doing like this, someone might as well be like, bro, I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm not even gonna fucking talk to you because, you know, you're not even making an effort to hear you. If I'd be like this, you know, and I'd be like, hey man, speak up, I can't fucking hear you from over there. You'd be like, fuck you, dude. But if I'm like here, sitting normally, yo, speak up a bit, man, can't hear you. Right? That's like a fair request. But if I'm like here, then obviously I wouldn't be asking to speak up, but you get my point, right? You wouldn't even have the possibility to speak up or to come forward to me. So that's a micro physical example of exactly what I just explained to you in the macro, right? It's like there's always a sweet spot. And so being too far back, right, that usually also fucks you up, because you can, if you're just a complete asshole to people, right, if you're just a complete dick, nobody's gonna fucking like you, right? That's also not a workable strategy. So you got to ask yourself, where on the spectrum, sweet spot, left side, right side, where on the spectrum am I now, right? And then let's say if you're here too much on the right side, right, then you want to go a little bit more to the left. And sometimes what you want to do is just, if this is the sweet spot and you know that you're here, you want to just whoop, go all the way over here, and then you will naturally end up here, right? Because it's like an elastic band, right? Where you're coming from will always want to pull you back. So if you're just going to be in the middle, then you're going to end up here, right? But if you go a little bit here, then you'll end up here, okay? That's how it works with your personality, okay? But there's a concept called neuroplasticity, where if you play here for, quite a while, then you stretch that stuff out and you actually change your brain physically, okay? So that is very important to realize. Now, getting back to the point, I know that I go and completely go off topic on these videos, right? I know that I riff off, and some asshole told me, hey man, why don't you script your videos more so that it's a little bit more digestible? Like, listen up, you fucking little cunt. Why don't you unsubscribe, you little fucking pussy? Anyways, I ain't scripting shit, okay? Because this is the way that it comes out, and this is the way you get unique content. If you want to watch a couple of top 10 tips of how to increase your confidence, and I mean, do your thing, man. This is not the channel for you. Okay, get the fuck out of here. Anyways, getting back to the point. So what I was talking about before, right? Being more aligned to your purpose and really following that. That fixes like 90% of your goddamn problems in your life. Okay, if you have something, and this is even a question that I ask people when I meet them often, right? I just ask, what are you kind of like most excited about now for the next couple months or year? Right? What goals are you most excited about? Or what's the shit that you're working on really increasing? Like, what's your main priority now, or whatever, right? You kind of get out of people what the thing is that they're most excited about, and then that tells you very quickly what type of person you're dealing with, how big of a person you're dealing with, right? And this goes for guys and girls, right? If the girl says, oh yeah, next weekend, there's this, we just had a big party here in Bali with Solomon. I didn't go, obviously, because I'm locked the fuck in. I mean, I would go to those kinds of things, but I'm just actually currently locked in. It's Q4, we gotta fucking work here. But anyways, let's say that you're talking to a girl. She's like, oh yeah, next week is Solomon, so I'm really excited. I'm like, bro, I just asked you what you're most excited about in your life, and you're telling me about a goddamn DJ event. You know what I mean? That goes right into the fun bucket right there, okay? That's maybe a night or two, but that's about it. So anyways, you can also ask that to a guy, right? If the guy says like, the main thing that he's working on, or that, if he says a party or something, you also know, hey, this is a dude that maybe, you can you can have fun with, like go out with, whatever, and kick it, but that's about it, right? Or if he says, yeah, man, actually recently talked to, one of my friends, and then he's like, oh yeah, I'm working on this 9-figure exit. I'm like, goddamn, you know what I mean? It shows you very quickly who you're dealing with without asking them, how much money do you make, buddy? Right now, obviously someone can lie, right? But I'm just saying, it's a tool. It's not the end all be all. So anyways, that is how you can, kind of like apply that to other people. But to yourself, you need to ask yourself that question on a continuous basis, because we just said how you can judge other people, right, through that question. You can also judge yourself through that question. What are you most excited about right now in your life, right? Coming next year, 2025. What the fuck are you gonna do, bro? What are you excited about? What are you doing? Where are you going, motherfucker? Okay? Because if you think about those things and you're very excited about it, or let's put it this way. Let's say that you ask yourself that question now and you're not that excited about it. You're like, could do this, could do that, but it's not like there's a fire lit under your ass. There's work to do, okay? Because genuinely, if you have a vision that's crystal clear, and I know that people talk about this a lot, and it's like kind of like corny, or it's dumbed down a bit, like, oh, know what you want, know what you want. But we need to stop for just a second or a minute and actually pause and understand what it means really. Because I'm telling you this, ask yourself this. If you knew for a fact, I'm just going to take my friend as an example. If you knew with like 95% certainty that within 3 years, you could make $100 million exit, or like, 200, 300, between 100 and a $300 million exit. And I actually have multiple friends who are working towards that within the next year or two, like, like seriously, that I talked to like over the past month or two. I was just in Hawaii with some friends of mine for like 2 weeks, and they're gonna do it like, I actually can't say it, but very soon. So anyways, seriously, right? If that was something that you were like working on and doing, and you're working towards, how much fucking excitement would that give you, right? How easy would it be for you to eliminate distractions if you were 95% sure or 100% sure, right, that you could do a 9-figure exit within a couple years? Well, at that point, nothing is going to distract you, because what the fuck is going to come close to a multi 9-figure exit, right? The only thing that could happen to you is like, okay, you're thinking short term, but you got to just stay focused on the longer term. And you got to also tell yourself at that point, right? Okay, if I were to have that 9-figure exit, bro, right? You could be the shit that you call fun right now. That's the kids' playground, right? So that's a motherfucking sandbag, like where you're playing with sand and shit. Like, once you do that, everything is gonna be so much more fun, right? Everything is gonna be like on a crazy level. Now, I'm not saying that money makes everything more fun, this and that, but this is also a belief that is workable for you to get more successful. So it doesn't even matter if it's that true or not. We can just say it's true because it's workable for our goals and for our success, which is become a rich motherfucker. Okay. So, and also it's kind of true, right? Because like, if you have all that paper, then yeah, you can do some sick shit, telling you. But anyways, the main point, obviously, and how that connects to this video, what we were talking about, the asshole stuff, right, is that if you have something that you're that excited about and you're really moving towards, then that automatically fixes a lot. Now, it doesn't fix everything, because I know plenty of people, and actually one example I have in my head right now of a person who's a great friend of mine, right, who I know is working towards a huge exit, right, a couple $100 million probably, and already makes a fuck ton, and also loves what he does and this and that. But I kid you not, this guy has it's painful to watch how his relationship is and stuff like that. And obviously, guys, I'm trying to keep things as vague as possible, because I would never want to indicate anyone specifically for people that do know me personally, whatever. But and this doesn't at all, even in the slides. You have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. And I would never do that. But I'm just saying, because I need to express to you examples of this in real life. Wow. Okay. So successful in all of these ways, right? And just doesn't wear the pants at home. Put it that way. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that. So it's not everything, but it is a very huge part. And for a lot of you that follow this channel, that also have kind of the self-development stuff down, right? That are not just focused on the external, you're also building yourself. It will be huge for you to have that external path, right, of following your purpose. And that aligns a lot, right? They also say that, some scientific studies and whatever say that the number one cause for depression is a lack of purpose, right? Because if you think about someone who's depressed, then essentially, or someone who wants to kill themselves, right? Like suicide type shit. And by the way, I've never been depressed. I've never said that I was depressed. Someone on my team recently said that they were feeling depressed. I was like, I scolded the fuck out of them, because like, why would you even say that? You know what I mean? It's something that, your vocabulary dictates also if someone is good, if you worsen something or if you lessen something. So what I mean by that is, like, if you are feeling not good, you could say, oh man, I'm a bit sad today, or oh, I'm just a bit off today, right? If you were to explain it, and if you were to actually say it, the best thing is obviously to not say it at all. But if you were to do that, you could say that. Or if you say, yeah man, I'm really depressed, I'm like, what? How stupid are you to even use that word, right? Because now you just made it 10 times worse. You went from sad to depressed like that, because your words have an effect on your mentality, right? It goes right into your subconscious and it acts accordingly, okay? To the command that you just gave. You just commanded yourself to be depressed. You're stupid as fuck, okay? Maybe to say that instead, I'm stupid as fuck. And then work on not being stupid as fuck. But anyway, look, that is actually true. Like, it is the number one cause for depression, because if you think about it, like, people that have a purpose, they have a reason, they have a why in their life, right? This and that. Now they have a reason to live for that. Cus D'Amato, Mike Tyson's trainer, if you ever, and coach, if you ever heard of that story, he said in an interview that you know, he would have been dead already if he hadn't met Mike, because Mike gave him purpose, because he knew that Mike had the potential to be the heavyweight champ of the world, right? And that's what he really wanted. He was really passionate about that. So he had a reason to live, and he ended up living much longer. Now, he did unfortunately die before Mike became champion, but which honestly, that's a fucking, you know, that's even thinking about that, that's a fucking stab in the heart, you know, for both of them. Like, yeah, that's honestly fucking fucked up. Anyways, that did still happen, unfortunately, right? Actually, it's so sad to think about, guys. Like, because they had such a special relationship. Just a quick side tangent, but you got to put some respect on them. Like, Mike Tyson, fucking young kid, out of the hood, arrested 33 times, whatever, right? Then meets Cus D'Amato. He fucking adopts him, makes him into a champion, everything, this and that, or the potential to be a champion. And then, unfortunately, he did pass away before Mike could even become a champion. Anyway, and by the way, what the fuck just happened with Mike and Jake, man? Fuck. But obviously, that shit was, you know, scripted to some extent, right? We're not going to get into that right now, but that was all on that topic. So as far as that purpose thing goes, that's, you know, how powerful that can be, okay? If you have those reasons, like another example that I'm going to give you, Viktor Frankl, right, who was in a concentration camp, you know, with the Second World War. He was in this concentration camp and he wrote this book, As a Man Thinketh. If I'm getting the names correctly right now, guys, it's been a long time. But either way, this man wrote a book, and in the book he really described, like, hey, listen, I'm in this concentration camp and all this shit is happening to me. You're getting fucking tortured, you have zero freedom, you're getting scolded every day, it's cold, whatever. There's obviously more horrible stuff, but let's leave it at that. Everybody's just being killed around you, right? It doesn't get much more fucked up than that. But this guy really, in his book, described this finding of like, hey, nothing of the external can actually affect my internal. Nothing externally dictates how I feel internally, because it has to pass through my thinking first, has to pass through my brain first, and I decide what the fuck I do. Well, he didn't say that, but my own interpretation of it. I decide what the fuck I do with that information in my brain, okay? Because you essentially give meaning to anything that comes into your visual or auditory or kinesthetic fields, meaning, you know, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, what you touch, etc. And then you give a meaning to that, okay? So you could, let's switch it up a little bit. Different example. Let's say that your girl bites you in your neck. You could say, hey, I'm being fucking attacked, okay? Someone is biting me. Someone's just trying to eat me. Some carnivore type shit. No, not carnivore. My bad, guys. The fuck's that word again? Cannibal type shit. Or you could give it the meaning, oh, she's trying to get it on. Okay, okay, mommy, right? So it's the meaning you give it. Now, obviously, this is a very trivial example, but we all know what I mean and how you can apply that to different scenarios. So it's the meaning you give things, right? And so this guy, kind of getting back and finishing the loop that I just started a couple minutes ago, he was in the worst possible situation. Anybody could have the right to say, I'm depressed there. I wouldn't get pissed at all if someone said it, right? They could, but this guy was happy as fuck. Right? Why? Or happy as fuck. He was just not letting the situation affect him, because he understood, like, hey, it's the meaning I give, it's this and that. And he put the meaning on, like, hey, this is my purpose to make it out and to share this story and stuff like that. So this guy had that meaning of when he got out, he was gonna write a book and he was gonna do this and that. And he just also even had the meaning of, like, you know, this situation is so extreme, and I'm gonna use this as a workout for my mind to, like, you know, employ self-control, this and that. And that's also something that you can use in whatever situation you are. You can give a different meaning to it, right? You can, obviously, if you're in a very shitty situation where a bunch of bullshit happens to you, you can literally consider that a workout for your mental strength, okay? If you're in a fight, if you're in a very bad situation, if you're in a very bad financial spot, that all builds your character. But we can all say, yes, okay, builds your character, okay, great. And you can say that in the aftermath and this and that, but that doesn't necessarily help you now, right? But if you now think of it like this, like, okay, this literally right now, as you're going through it, I'm like, okay, let's bring it on. This is a fucking workout. I'll do a couple more laps. Let's go. Bring it on. Give me some more. Give me some more, man. I can fucking take it, right? And you go into it with that fucking mentality. Like, it's literally a workout, okay? You're running laps. I'll do a couple more. Let's go, coach. Let's make it happen. So you think of it like that and you treat it like that once you're in the situation, then you're gonna actually be okay with even getting more on your plate because you're thinking, I mean, I hope so, right? It depends on the kind of, on who you are, I guess. But for me, that's how I always thought of it. So personally, have gone through, I would say I've gone through a lot of fucking heavy shit, but I also wouldn't compare it to someone who was in, the situation that I just described in the Second World War and stuff like that. So that's why sometimes people actually message me about this, like, hey man, share a little bit more about like your own stories and like how you grew up and this and that and like how you came to be and whatever. But I never really have done that a lot because I always feel like it's a bit of a weird thing, right? It's a bit of a selfish thing and just a bit of a weird thing to talk about your own story. Obviously, I talk about stories that relate to exactly what I'm talking about that are more recent, but I just always, there's a lot of people that online, they'll make these stories about, oh, I grew up like this and this was hard and that, but it's just a bit of a victim role to me. But anyways, if you guys want to, I will. But yeah, anyways, guys, so that is given that meaning thing, right? And that allows you to have a lot of purpose in your life and be more fulfilled. Because what you also got to understand is if your cup is full, right? This is a great analogy because my cup is actually a quarter full right now. But if this motherfucker was fully full, then that would represent how I personally try to walk around each day. If your cup is full up until the thing and it spills over, there's a saying, your cup runneth over. You can Google that saying to get a little bit more depth on it. But if your cup is completely full, what's going to happen? You're basically going to be overflowing with good emotions and overflowing with positive energy, right? And I don't just mean like positive energy in the sense of like happy, smiley, smiley. It's different for every person, right? The way that you carry yourself and the way that you walk around. But it's just when you meet someone, they feel lit up essentially. And so that is this energy that's undescribable. When you meet people, you sometimes have this feeling like, oh, this person has just it. It's the X factor, right? And that's a certain energetic thing you can't put into words. And you also is very quite hard to fake, if not impossible. And it just comes when you are in just the zone, right? And it is really like the hormones and everything that, you have your serotonin, you have your dopamine, you're just in flow, you're just in a very good emotional place. And therefore you're overflowing with it. And therefore when you meet someone, you just kind of like transfer that towards them. And then they feel lit up, right? That's a saying that people sometimes use. I feel lit up around him or her or whatever, right? And that's what is that true attraction, right? And that's also how some people have said to me, I've had some people that, in the past, like came on programs, mindset programs, or whatever, this and that. And that leads me to this, by the way. If you want to have like one of my mindset seminars, I'll give it to you for free that I've done, right? I actually spoke for the company RSD. Then you can message me seminar on Instagram. My Instagram, I'll leave it in the description. Just add Boyd Hook and I'll send it to you. Because it breaks this stuff down very in depth and it's a very cool thing. I'll just send it to you for free, no problem at all. Because some people ask me for that. So anyways, the actual energetic thing that I was talking about, right? When you meet someone like that and you just lit them up, it's the special sauce, right? And some people, as I was just saying, that were in that seminar or whatever, right? They were like, bro, you're the best person. Like one person actually messaged me this specifically after having been on the call. He was like, dude, you're the best salesperson I've ever come across. And I'm literally in $10,000 sales programs and hire mentor. Like he's an actual salesperson for a living. And that's not even what I do for a living, right? But either way, he said that to me. And that's just to show like, yo, all that stuff, right? I don't know all of the technical stuff of sales or whatever. To be fair, I know a fuck ton about sales. And to be fair, I probably know all the technical stuff better than most people. But I'm just saying that's not what I focus on. That's more so what I'm saying. What I focus on more is that the energy, right? And the subconscious communication, because that's more powerful. Because actually, that's like, from the top of my head, like 80% of communication. It's actually non-verbal communication, like 80%, your tonality, your body language, and then your overall energy, right? So anyways, that must hit, right? And so one of the things that I did, one of the businesses that I ran was like mindset coaching, right? I actually did NLP, hypnosis, etc. to people, but generally just coaching, right? I just used those things as tools when I thought they were good to use. And so I would run little Facebook ads, okay, to a little funnel with a 5-minute video, and then people would get on a call with me, and then obviously also with team members, this and that, but I also did some calls. And I would literally be closing 100K deals. And frankly, some people wouldn't necessarily pay, or most people wouldn't pay 100 grand just like that, because most people don't have 100 grand to invest laying around. But I promise you, like, and there's actually a sales call on this channel. If you go and scroll back, it's called 50K mindset coach sales call or some shit like that. And there you can actually see, obviously we're blurred out the client and stuff. You can see how I closed the deal like that. But anyways, that example also that I told you about, like I've never spoken to these people before. They may have spoken to one of my team members for just 5 minutes just to confirm the call and stuff. And it was just like a 5-minute video of mine. And how do I close a person for a fucking 100 grand, for in an hour, right? Or something like that. It cannot be because of a sales script, right? There's something beyond it. And I've done that multiple times. And, it's because they're special sauce, right? And that's also for me within like a relational context. Some of my friends, I'm just gonna fucking be open as a book here, but a lot of my friends have asked me, like, dude, how do you do it with like women sometimes? They'll see me out and about, I just meet a girl, and then that night and we're just like locked like that, right? Because it's the communication thing, it's the deeper layer that I know how it works, and I am it. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying I'm always like that, and I'm not saying I'm always perfect and I'm always a super smooth motherfucker. But I'm just trying to tell you that, and what I'm trying to make clear to you is that when you focus on the deeper layers of who you are being before you're even saying a word or before you're even entering a sales meeting or whatever, that then you can do some real powerful shit, because that's what nobody else can truly do. And also, if you can tap in to who you really are and what your most powerful version is, nobody can compete with you there, right? Nobody can compete with you there, because you are the only person who can be that, okay? You can't be someone else, but you can be yourself. But I'm talking about yourself in like your higher self type way, not not the self that's like just this, that's just who you are because you're actually just insecure, right? Because that's not the true you, right? The true you is who you are when you're just being like when you're just completely comfortable and confident. So maybe you're around family members, or maybe when you're fucking playing a goddamn video game, whatever. Everybody has a charismatic side to themselves, right? And you got to find that, and that's what you want to just tap into and double down on. As you probably noticed in this video, right? My kind of humor and just what the shit that I just find funny, and I just do these videos. I literally entertain myself in these videos. So obviously I like talking about this stuff. It's interesting to me, but I crack jokes in these videos all the time. As you can probably tell in this video, I've cracked like 10 jokes, and I'm making myself genuinely laugh. Like, I could actually crack up for like 10 minutes here, but I'm trying to also stick to the fucking video as well, But I'm talking about this fucking shit like I look like Brad Pitt. I'm talking about this shit like, if you're trying to, get in closer, if you're trying to do something. This is like how I joke. Like, it's kind of like this narcissistic, funny humor. Do I think that, I'm the best looking guy alive? Yes. But is it also a joke? Yes. So anyways, you got to find what is that for you, right? Because to be fair, there's always a balance between, okay, who you really are and then also who you want to become, right? Because you do want to have that distinction of like your higher self. Because a lot of people will take this the wrong way if I don't say this, where they'll just be themselves, which is just their nerdy, insecure, introverted self. That's not necessarily yourself, right? A lot of people actually think they're introverted. What they actually are is insecure, right? And if they were completely secure and comfortable, then they would actually be extroverted, okay? It's not the same fucking thing. You're labeling yourself as something which is not true. It's just true once you are insecure, because around your family, you're all funny, gregarious, and charismatic, buddy. So it's not fucking true, is it? You need to be able to cultivate that personality, that side of you in any scenario, right? And then you're truly being yourself. So being yourself is very true, but with a, connotation, with a kind of like a side note in there. that it's not the self that you might think that you are, okay? Who are you really? Without the programming and the bullshit, okay? Get that shit out of here. So anyways, guys, find your purpose. And that's, once again, I'm gonna leave this video off with that as a message, right? And that as a conclusion, is that I make these videos, once again, with a beginning, with a title, that everybody wants to see that shit, right? You guys just find it cool. Everybody likes to view that on this channel, apparently. But what is the real root, the real important thing? That's what you get in the video, okay? That's the message I'm trying to convey. Don't focus as much on like, oh, how to be a communication super master and this and that. It's gonna be higher leverage to focus on developing you as a cool person, right? And doing it for that reason. And fucking finding your purpose, sticking your purpose, that is going to be way higher leverage, and that's also what's going to fulfill you way more, and that's ultimately going to create a lot of those communications by itself. Now, once again, nothing is 100% because we also know these celebs and this and that also fuck up their personal life, their relationships, and this and that because they haven't done nothing in that area, right? And they're just not self-developed in that area either. But it's both. But I'm just saying, watching these videos, you might get the idea that it's this, but actually it's mostly that for you guys, most likely because you're already kind of engaged in the self-development stuff. So that is my last message for you. I hope this one was valuable, funny, and whatever else you want to stick on there. Drop me a little like, drop me a little comment, and I'll actually reply to you guys if you message me the word seminar on Instagram at BoydHook, and I'll send you that thing because I know you guys are gonna love it. All right, so see you in the next one. And go crush it, my man.